Hey everybody, I wanted to make a quick little video here just to touch on 2 or 3 things before I pick my son up. We're going to run into Old Navy. So I really wanted to talk about this upcoming holiday season, what you're going to be doing when you get together with your family, and also New Year's, and touch on like New Year's resolutions and things like that. The first thing is I've made a couple of posts really on, this is a Reddit community that I've recently just created, so I'm trying to build up with people with health anxiety and cardiophobia. And I was really posting some things about diet and how it's very important and crucial to improve your diet and what you're putting in your body, because I myself was very ignorant to what I was putting into my body, what is good for anxiety, what is really bad for anxiety. And I didn't know any better. And then when I took out a lot of those anxiety-inducing foods, and foods that are just overall bad for you, how quickly my anxiety actually started to get better. And I'm talking about, a couple of months, not a year or multiple years, just over the course of a couple of months. But it was a lot of, trial and error, and I'm basically being my own guinea pig. So, when you're getting together with your family and when you're having get-togethers, I know that a lot of times, there's a lot of sugar, desserts, caffeine, and I know from being in an Italian family that, you would have a dinner, then you'd have desserts, and then right after the desserts would be followed by, a round of coffee. And, when you're going through healing, when you've been doing better, or when you're going through an anxiety disorder, it's probably a better idea to try to avoid excessive amounts of sugar and caffeine and other kind of stimulants like that, alcohol. Just try to avoid that if you can, or take smaller amounts of that. Don't have a piece of cake and then follow it up with a big cup of coffee or something like that, if you can avoid it, because obviously that combination going into your body might set you up for a high level of anxiety and edginess, and we don't want anybody to fall back into old habits or think that what they're doing isn't working, because I know being an anxiety sufferer, negative thinking and negative thought patterns are probably one of the biggest, if not the biggest, obstacle that you have. It's always, the what ifs are really hard to overcome and fight off. So that's, recommendation number 1 that I would make for you, is just to try and be cognizant of what you're gonna, eat, what you're gonna drink, and try to take small amounts of sugar and caffeine, and try to avoid the combination if you can. Caffeine does stay in your body for 10-11 hours, so if you're having a dinner and then you're having coffee after that, and then you're trying to sleep, good luck with that. You have the sugar and the caffeine, it's probably not going to be all that easy for you to fall asleep. And then I want to touch on New Year's resolutions. I know, I'm in my 30s, so for at least 30 years, I've 25 years, I'll say. So for 25 years, you've been hearing my New Year's resolution is I'm going to go to the gym. That's pretty much the biggest thing that, people want to change come the new year, is, their physical health. And that's important, obviously. That's why, I touch on diet a lot. I think the diet is very important, but, I think when you're an anxiety sufferer, physical health obviously is very important. Like, exercise can also help with anxiety in its own right. But I think, you should really make it a point to improve your mental health as opposed to just going to the gym. I think that should be, the priority of people who are suffering from anxiety. It's to really, if you have health anxiety or cardiophobia, I'm going to speak more on, because that's pretty much what I went through, which was the worst for me, was cardiophobia. And fears of heart attacks, heart failures, when having like 200 or more ectopic heartbeats skip heartbeats a day, was incredibly scary for me. It was very debilitating. There were times where I couldn't even leave my bed. Basically, I was afraid to roll over for periods of time. It was very bad. So your New Year's resolution, I would advise you to make that number one. Go to the specialist, get your initial reassurances. If you have to see a second specialist, a second cardiologist, I'm just gonna use that as an example. Go see a second cardiologist, get your external reassurance, so that way now, you can start to take away some of the barriers, like break through some of the barriers. So when you tell yourself, oh, well, I can't exercise, I can't do this because I'm afraid of this is going to happen, I'm afraid that I'm going to drop, which was one other fear for me. It was very hard for me to go outside, even for a walk. But when you can come back at that negative thought with factual information, from testing that's been done by a cardiologist, whether that's an echocardiogram, a stress test, a Holter monitor, EKGs, whatever you get done, blood work, labs, everything comes back okay, which most people have already done, but there are some people who are afraid to do that because they don't want to hear bad news. But you really have to get that done and out of the way first. Otherwise, you're not really going to be able to recover. It's going to be almost impossible for a negative thought to pop in your mind that something catastrophic is going to happen to your heart, as an example, and you don't have any ammunition to combat that, to come back at that and say, okay, well, I have this fear, but it's seeming more and more like it's irrational because my echocardiogram was perfect, my EKG was fine, there's nothing abnormal on a Holter, the stress test was normal also. Nothing is really preventing me from going out and doing certain things and taking certain steps other than my mentality and my mindset and my negative thinking and catastrophizing. So when you start to take certain steps, barriers start to fall away, and it's baby steps. So when you do these things, like then you can go outside, you can go for a walk. If your heart rate gets a little bit up there, it's going to be a little bit anxiety inducing, but you can make it through that, and know that you're going to be okay because everything has totally come back normal, and you can start to chip away and do a little bit here, and continue to progress in the right direction. And we all know that most people make those New Year's resolutions to go to the gym to get into better shape and do all this kind of stuff, and they might do it for a week, but then the next week it's out the window. It's very hard to commit to something and get it done when you're an anxiety sufferer, when you don't have the willpower, when you don't have the mental fortitude to keep going, to stick with it, especially when you think that something is always going to happen to you, when you think that something's wrong with you physically, when you think you're fading away, when you think you're dying, basically. Because if you have health anxiety, that's a big problem. It was for me. I thought I was dying every day. So, I would say that the priority should be mental health first, and then you start working at the physical health. Once you get the mental health aspect down and start chipping away at certain things, certain negative beliefs, then you could start going, getting out there, going for walks. Walk for a little bit, just do a little bit, 10 minutes a day, just do a little walk, 15 minutes a day for, a week or two. A little jog in the third week, 2 minutes, 2-minute jog. Another week, up it to 2.5 minutes, 3 minutes, and you just build. You build. That was my progression. I was scared to death to do any of that stuff. I was scared to walk. I was scared to jog. I couldn't do it. If I felt my heart rate getting up, even getting out of bed and things like that, it can be very difficult, very debilitating. So you have to get the mental aspect of it out of the way first, then you work on the physical. So for your New Year's resolution, mental health first, then work on the physical. If you have any questions, feel free comment. If you're on Reddit, Instagram, feel free to DM me, and I'd be more than happy to help anybody that I can help. So thank you very much. I look forward to speaking to you in the next video.